Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's best standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go, I see you. And let's dive into today's best standard. Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining me as we break down the following standard. Today's standard is MA.4.FR.1.3, and it says to identify and generate equivalent fractions, including fractions greater than 1. Students will be expected to describe how the numerator and the denominator are affected when the equivalent fraction is created. So let's go over some of those terms there. Identifying fractions is being able to say, hey, these are equivalent fractions, and also being able to create fractions that are equivalent. Equivalent, of course, means equal in value, and we'll be working with fractions that are greater than 1, and that's where the numerator is greater than the denominator. So if we have 3 halves, how many fourths would that be? And we also need to be able to describe how the numerator, which is the top part of a fraction, it's the part that's being considered, and how the denominator, the bottom part of a fraction, the total number of equal parts, are affected. So we will go through that today. By the way, this document that I'm marking up all over is not something that I created. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public. And in these episodes, I just show you how I process and break down the standards in order to create resources that are strategically aligned to this standard. So we'll spend about half the video breaking the standard down here, and then we'll hop over to the website and I'll show you what you have access to with your Taking on the B.E.S.T membership, okay? All right, let's get to the clarifications. It says that instruction includes the use of manipulatives, visual models, number lines, and equations. In Taking on the B.E.S.T, we will focus mainly on the visual models, number lines, and the equations. However, I do totally recommend that if you have manipulatives for fractions, break them out. The more that they can see it and play with it, the better. Let's get to the related benchmarks, the horizontal alignment. In 4th grade, we have FR.2.1, which is where we're decomposing fractions. And 2.3 is where we are adding fractions with the denominators of 10 and 100. 4.M.1.1 is our length, liquid volume, and temperature benchmark, where we will be incorporating also fractions into that, and also measurement conversions. The standard right here is all about representing data, and 1.2 is finding the mode, median, and the range. So some horizontal alignment there. Where are they coming from in 3rd grade? Well, they have had some practice with equivalent fractions. It was more simple though, going more into the models, a lot of heavy visuals, where with this one we're also trying to break in how when you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number, or divide by the same number, you will get an equivalent fraction. MA.5.FR.2.1 is adding and subtracting with unlike denominators, and this is, I put stars around this because this standard that we're going over today is going to significantly impact that standard. In order to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators, we must have those denominators match, which means there's a ton of creating equivalent fractions to make that happen. So they've got to understand this one is what I'm trying to say. Purpose and instructional strategies section, it says the purpose of this benchmark is for students to begin generating equivalent fractions. This builds on identifying equivalent fractions in grade 3, like we just talked about, and builds the foundation for adding and subtracting fractions with denominators in 5th grade. And again, yes, we just talked about that, so I won't harp on that anymore, but it's huge. We need to be using area models, set models, number lines, and equations to do this. And it should be done with fractions that are equal to and greater than 1. also done. So it can also be less than 1 too, but making sure we're getting those fractions less than 1, fractions equal to 1, and fractions that are greater than 1 involved. Here again is how we are breaking down area models, equations, number lines, sets. Also another equation, how we're multiplying the numerator and the denominator by 2 to generate that equivalent fraction there. Some common misconceptions or errors that students make is that they think that they only need to multiply or divide only the numerator or only the denominator, not both of them. That's a mistake that students commonly make. So they might change 4 to 8 by multiplying by 2, but they don't change the numerator as well. You got to change both in order for them to be equivalent. For instructional tasks, we have here locating 2/5, dividing it again into 4/10, and seeing if they are equivalent. And here I noticed that there's not a correct answer. We have 3/6, which would be equivalent to 1/2 or 2/4, but there's no answer there that represents 2/4, so I think that was a mistake. It also didn't come with these. I just added those in, those little lines to break them into fourths right there. So I think this was a mistake, but really what I think they were trying to do is probably if they just went like this and created 2/4, that would have made this one right here a correct answer. All right, so we've seen the standard, we've seen what it looks like in action, and now let's go ahead and see what you have access to with your Taking on the B.E.S.T membership. So here is the website, mccarthymathacademy.com. We're going to click Members, enter here, select Taking on the B.E.S.T and 4th grade. We, of course, are in that fractions strand, so we'll click on that one and select MA.4.FR.1.3 equivalent fractions, and right away you're opened up to your bronze resources. These are the video lessons and student guides. So basically your video lessons where students can take notes on their own guide. In this video lesson, we'll walk through equivalent fractions that are using an area model. Here, walking through equivalent fractions using a number line, and then they also mention sets in the standard, so we have it there. Ooh, we have an extra episode, equivalent fractions that are greater than 1 using an area model and a number line there. So video lessons, printable guide, you just click here and it'll populate that guide that you need. Download and print it, and you're ready to go. In addition to the video lessons, though, we want to make sure that our students understand it. The whole purpose of these videos is to make it fun and make it click, to make students walk away going, okay, I think I can try this on my own, but we don't expect for them to master the skill just from watching the video. So that's where these silver resources come into play. If we click here, if you have the gold or the silver plan, you'll have access to these. You can go back to those video lessons at any time, but what you want to do is click right here where it says printables. All right, and then we have the video lesson guide right here, and right after that we'll have the extra practice. So it goes video lesson, extra practice, video lesson, extra practice, video lesson, extra practice. So here you can see it says determine if 3/5 and 6/10 are equivalent by drawing area models. So here is the whole. They are equal wholes, and students will have to, in the video lesson, we'll walk through how to split these wholes into 5 parts and shade in 3, then split this whole into 10 parts and shade in 6, and determine if they are equivalent. And then over here it says if the fractions are equivalent, based on what we draw over here with our area models, determine how the numerator and the denominator are affected. So we'll take down notes for that one too. So there's 3 examples here that students can walk through, take notes. And then there's the opportunity for extra practice right here, where students will be able to use their notes to help them walk through this on their own. Then we've got the next video lesson, modeling on a number line. So the same kind of thing, take 2 fractions, showing how to model it on a number line. How are the numerator and denominator affected, just like the standard said. And then we're going to the second part. Once they've watched the video lesson, it's time for extra practice. Let's see if they can use what they've learned to help them practice on their own. Then again, the next video, practicing with sets. And if you're not sure how to incorporate equivalent fractions using sets, you can take a look at that video lesson yourself to help you walk through it. Then we've got the extra practice using sets. And finally, that last video lesson on equivalent fractions greater than 1. We've got an example with mixed numbers. We have fractions that are greater than 1 using an area model and number line, and also describing how the numerator and denominator are affected if they are equivalent. And then extra practice. Okay, then we have a math mission. It's like a math task. Part 1 says use the cards right here to create 3 equivalent fractions. So we'll put them in here. And then model or prove how you know that these 3 fractions are equivalent at least 3 different ways. So you could use it using area models, using number lines, using sets, justifying it, showing how the numerator and denominator are affected. Those are 4 ways. Students just have to prove it 3 ways. And there is an answer key for all this as well. The last activity for the silver plan is the Math Misconception Mystery episode. It's a video lesson, and if you go right here, you just click play right there, and I will walk students through the entire process. I'll say, okay, here's your problem. Create a fraction that's equivalent to the fraction below and solve it on your own. And then students will watch as 4 characters solve that same exact problem. 3 of those characters are going to make a mistake that students commonly make, maybe only multiplying the numerator, only multiplying the denominator, maybe just flipping them to be 6/9, right? Only one of the students, though, will have the correct answer, the correct method for solving. So students will watch and take notes in here. And then on this page, they have their detective report where they select who the most reasonable answer belongs to and evaluate the work of the other 3 characters. So these are super fun. Once you have completed a Math Misconception Mystery video with your students, they are going to beg you for more, so be careful. Next, we have the gold resources. So if you have the gold plan, you have access to even more. You can go back to those video lessons at any time. You can go back to those extra practice pages at any time with the silver right there. But with your gold membership, you also have access to a mini assessment. You can see the standard is right here. It says show what you know, so you can use this as a mini assessment or just as extra practice if you want to, however you want to use it. But there's a variety of question types just for the standard, and there's about 4 to 5 questions depending on the standard. So you can see just a little glimpse of this one. Okay, and here is the answer key for those mini assessments. Right here is where your breaking down the best video episode is what you're watching right here, and the gold members have a perk of it being right there with everything else. Now these breaking down the best videos are also available on YouTube, just gold members have the perk of it being right there with everything else. However, the main reason that most people go with the gold plan is because they want access to McCarthy Math 155 as well. This is a daily math intervention aligned to the Common Core standards. Now, if you've been exploring a little bit with the BEST standards, you've seen that there are so many similarities with the Common Core and the BEST standards, but there's just enough differences that I had to create a whole new program. However, there are a bunch of video lessons that can still support you and your students with McCarthy Math 155. So if you click here, the 155, it stands for 155 video lessons for each grade. So we'll click on 4th grade, and you can see the different units: place value, adding and subtracting numbers, multiplication, division. And here we are with fraction equivalence and comparison. That's what we're working on, right? There's 6 video lessons just on that. So when we scroll down, we have equivalent fractions. Here it says list 2 fractions that are equivalent to 1/4. So even though it might be a different strategy, not quite as centered on what the BEST standards are expecting, there's still practice right there for that. Are the fractions equivalent? Are the fractions equivalent? Comparing fractions. So you can see there's a lot of support there to help your students boost their confidence and build their fluency with these kind of skills. All right, so that is McCarthy Math 155 for you. Tons of extra video lessons there, and I think that is it. So I hope that you found this episode today, this Breaking Down the BEST episode, to be helpful. Hopefully now you understand what is expected of your students and what you have access to with your membership. Before we go, let me remind you that what you choose to do with your life every day, it really does matter. Thank you so much for stepping into the best version of yourself every day and inspiring your students to do the same. And really, thank you so much for inviting me into your educational space. I love being able to support you, and I can't wait to see you in another episode. I know you're busy. I'm gonna let you go, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now. Bye.